They're pausing there at the end of the runway. They're going to crank it up and then let the brakes go and roll forward. You'll see the aircraft. You won't actually see the nose will lift slightly. You'll see the oleo leg extend, and they're rolling.
Trying to set up our BR again, that's the problem.
About 100 feet off the ground, 690 miles an hour. Flown for us. Start turning one way, roll the aircraft underneath and end up turning the other way. So now that's slowed the aircraft right down. He's doing about 126 miles an hour, 110 knots. And he's just holding the stick fully back and controlling the height with the throttles. Hear him just flipping it. He's got the wheels down. This 29 reserve, the training squadron. An outside turn, he's on the outside of that. He was getting minus 3G there, blood rushing to his head. On the engines, and in a moment he's going to put the power on and accelerate into the vertical. And the thing to notice is how close he stays to us. Very tight turning zones. Split into a thick. And that is quite close. is Phil Ansell barrel rolling round the smoke trail. What a lovely sight that is, and you can see the shadow of the aircraft as it crosses the smoke trails. What a perfect day for an air show. So their final break coming up. Well, I think we can hear from the co-pilot on board, Flight Lieutenant Dave Wells.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the crew of the Aerobatic Golf 122, the Seeking Mark 3 from our aircraft.
All of it is to keep the winch cable at about the right height. It's 240 feet long at its maximum height, is that cable. It's very important. I don't want to lift the casualty. If he is a casualty, but anyway, the person they're rescuing, they think referred to him or possibly her as the ejectee. The ejectee. So the helicopter comes down so as to minimise the amount of time the person has to spend on the end of a wire. They said when you're being pitched into the aircraft on a bit of wire that's thinner than a pencil, it makes a lot of the jobs quite exciting. There we go, Survivor has got airborne. I can't really see this from where I am, but I just get little glimpses of it occasionally. These aircraft have got an advanced navigation and radar system. It works day and night, all weathers. An automatic flight squadron formed in 1915. An interesting squadron crest. It's the mathematical symbol I on the Maltese cross. Because at one stage in the squadron's history, the aircraft would take off from an airfield in Malta and overfly the headquarters of number 7 group. Hence 22/7. Aye, fantastic. And their motto is Per et audacieux, which translates as valiant, and trailers now travelling at 40 miles an hour. And there's Brendan approaching it at a vicious angle. 55, he's at 55 miles an hour, which is about the speed that the aircraft would be landing at, so this looks possible. Disappeared behind the tent. No, he's decided against it that time. This is a bit of Willy Won'ty, really. Willy Wora estate with a 4-litre engine, and there's Brendan sort of hovering above it. I think he's got the wheels on it, has he? He's got the wheels on it. Looks like it.
Yeah.
And he's moved up the trailer, and the aircraft is now clamped to the trailer. Bear in mind that the trailer is... This is what you call an earworm. You'll be singing this for the rest of the day. Thanks, Jonathan. Rolling. The old Ford Explorer straining at the leash. 30 miles an hour. 40 miles an hour. The clamps are off. The aeroplane is just sitting on the trailer. And there he is, airborne. Hooray! Well done, that man. It really is quite extraordinary show. And as we suggested, he is completely balmy. You can hear him contributing from commentary boxes around the country as well. Here is Cliff coming in towards us with all that plume of smoke. It's almost as good as having a smoke generator. Sort of a bleak 360 turn, a kind of loop canted on its side. Interesting man, Cliff Spink. He was an air marshal till 2003. He'd flown all of the Royal Air Force's recent jets up to the Tornado F3. Nat, Hunter, Lightning, Phantom. He was the boss of 74 Tiger Squadron. Flew on some of the RAF's most famous squadrons, Treble 1, 56, 74. He also flew the BBMF Spitfires and Hurricanes. Here she goes, and there goes Cliff Spink, and a lovely final fast fly past. Twinkle rolling as he goes. Smashing sight. Heading off into the afternoon sun. Then they got to Lancaster. Slightly ironically changed the name to the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. So here they are, the Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. Test pilot Alex Henshaw, who didn't only test Spitfires but also tested Lancaster bombers, could actually roll one of these, slow roll, which meant that it kept positive G on, and he would put a flying glove on the cockpit coaming, and he made sure it stayed there throughout the whole of the roll. So here they are, the Lancaster, Spitfire and the Hurricane. Be very proud. And here come the other two. Beautiful colour scheme of the Royal. And the aircraft this represents was the Spitfire that did the last RAF. So after flying Royal flight, as it comes towards us, you see those fairly planky, thick wings, not with the same shape as the Spitfire wings. Hurricane designed by the great. Note those KCA markings, and if you can see it, the nose art on the front of the aircraft. But the nose art is called, it's Thumper Mark III. Right, you can see the huge bomb bay that is open there. And you
They're not frightened.
talking in a very rare interview about the dams raid. Wireless operator, mid-upper gunner and tail gunner. Here she is with the wheels down, with the fighters catching her up. As a whole, 126,000 aircrew flew into battle with the average age of 22, and of those, more than 58,000 died. 46 total fatalities amounted to 1 in 7 of the total service casualties. But at least now we have a Bomber Command Memorial in London, and how wonderful it is. HM the Queen said those who died gave their tomorrow so that we could enjoy our today. But perhaps the best description of the Lancaster came from Sir George Edwards, the grand old man of British aviation, who died in 2003. He said, "An aircraft designed by engineers and built by craftsmen and women for heroes to fly."
Right now, boys and girls, to see the very first roll by a helicopter that you may have seen this year. And there you go, that was intentional. It looks as though it's falling out of the sky. In fact, it looks very, very uncomfortable indeed, but that is what helicopters do when you do unusual things to them, because of course they're not really designed to do that, as they're not designed to go upside down right now. Coming into what is effectively a helicopter half Cuban there, you see that the tail does its best to break away from normal flight, and correcting that is a feat of quite interesting ergonomics in the cockpit. The Lynx helicopter has of course been the mainstay of in its variant as a Mark 9 in Afghanistan. And Eddie and Alex there just throwing in another loop to reposition out on what we call the... Whilst Alex is the recruiting officer until quite recently taking up a new job. Now, here's the time to keep an eye on this helicopter, because right now the signature movement for the Army Air Corps and the past history of the Blue Eagles. Stand by with your cameras to be amazed. Boys and girls, the backflip. Some pressures and of course power settings to ensure that during this rather interesting regime of flying, that of course the aircraft stays absolutely safe and flyable. Going into a 90-90 now, again a zoom climb up, all the power being used with a cyclic right back to get into that position and then pushing the nose right over. Not a terribly comfortable manoeuvre at all. But of course huge amount of coming back into a rearwards transition now. Both the crew will be working hard to ensure that the helicopter stays straight all the way down the display line whilst pirouetting around their own fuselage. Luckily today conditions of course very benign and absolutely perfect for display flying. Captain Crampon in the other seat, as I say, for the last year was our recruiting officer. We do have all the recruiting team here on the ground between the hangars, so if you're interested in army flying, do of course please come and talk to them. And you will see another of our aircraft in about an hour's time, of course the indomitable Apache attack helicopter. Right now though, the Mark 7 is probably in its last year or so of service. It will soon be replaced by the Wildcat. is currently undergoing evaluation work at Royal Naval Air Station down at Yeovilton, where eventually all the Lynx static format in all of its helicopter displays. Now, as well as training individuals to convert to the Lynx helicopter, 671 Squadron has other roles with the Bell 212 and also the Gazelle helicopter, which remains in service for a little bit longer, doing essential internal security work in Northern Ireland. The Bell 212 is recent performance of the Lynx helicopter, which has served so well. Zooming up now, using all that energy and power, pulling the cycling back and levelling off. If you missed it the first time, boys and girls, here's your opportunity to see for a second time. And they're just getting everything now, checking the T's and P's, making sure it's safe. Stand by for the backflip. Pulling back on that from a standing start is really a very strange experience, but once you're over the top, actually it all becomes just like coming out of any normal U. But keep an eye now, because this is a hesitation stall turn where the fuselage is just allowed almost to rest on the pocket of air below it before it can be operational training phase, when they will break off into their individual service requirements and training schools. Shortly, not far from here, is the centre of excellence for that basic training, where the operator pilot quality services will undergo the basic and a little bit of advanced line before they're progressing on to what is effectively learning about their operational role. So a good opportunity now as they go into this reverse transition. Both crew can see you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you've got, hats, coats, ice creams, umbrellas, please give them a wave as they manoeuvre now in this last concluding section of the Mark 7 Lynx display from the Army Air Corps. And there's the final nods. That's Captain Eddie Brown and Captain Alex Cramphorn. We hope you enjoyed that. As you say, if you have boys and girls or relatives interested in joining the Army Air Corps, then come to the rear of the Crown Air and Magliner hangars and you can talk to any of the team about their experiences in Afghanistan and around the world. Sean, how was that? Brilliant as ever, George.
Ladies and gentlemen, here they are, the Royal Air Force Aerobatic team for 2013. It's the Renos! Now, boys and girls, as they come canopy on, the pilots can see you waving, so get your arms up, lots and lots of waving. Fly the majority of our formations with the odd-numbered pilots on the left-hand side and the even-numbered pilots on the right. This is Concord. Anniversary of the Dam Busters. This is Lancaster. Now is another of our first year pilots, that's Red 2 on quick reaction alert. In from the left now, they pull up for the Typhoon Loop. One of our pilots is a former Typhoon pilot. Red 9 is moving across to the far side of the formation now, and he is Flight Lieutenant Mike Child, who's in his second year with the team. He's a former Hawk flying instructor and solo Hawk display pilot and flew operationally on 3 Squadron flying the Typhoon. The jets have slowed down to about 150 miles an hour now as they now accelerate to the bottom of this loop in a shape called Signet.
around 2,500 feet. They'll move back into 9 arrow. Now as the synchro pair slingshot out to the front, look to your left for Enid. Some of you may have seen a panel hanging down from the back of Enid's jets there. Well, the Red Arrows would like to dedicate this heart to a girl who has her 12th birthday today. Becky Kerwin, this is for you, and we hope you have a very happy birthday. And Harrier GR9 pilot. Looking left and right again. Looking right 40 for the good bit, ladies and gentlemen. This is the vertical brake. Red 6 and 7 fly in it upside down in line astern formation, as Reds 8 and 9 roll around them in the corkscrew. Matched rolls to the outside of the formation in the rollbacks. Reds 8 and 9 roll around Reds 6 and 7, who complete their own rolls in their Jippo brake. This is the Vixen brake. We are the Royal Air Force Aerobatic team, the Red Arrows. So ladies and gentlemen, cameras ready for the last time here this year at RAF Cosford. The Royal Air Force Aerobatic team, the Red Arrows. Gentlemen, the motto on the squadron's crest is Éclate, which means
please welcome the
excellence.
2013 Chinook display team. Outperform the seesaw, a manoeuvre made up of 2 of those pedal turns, similar to stall turns in the fixed wing world. The Chinook makes an incredible sound while in flight, and this will be ably demonstrated to you before the aircraft carries out its next manoeuvre, the Corny Climb. to other helicopters in theatre. This followed by a 720 corkscrew descent from around 1,000 feet. The crewmen will be regretting that extra sandwich about now. Please show your appreciation to our crew today by giving them a big wave as they pass along the crowd line. As the aircraft passes, you will notice its 3 hooks, used for carrying underslung loads. These can hold up to 10.5 metric tons. This great ability to carry 3 external loads simultaneously, while still carrying a large internal load, has made the Chinook famous the world over, and recently the workhorse of the Afghan theatre. The aircraft today weighs 15 tons, but as you can see it's still highly manoeuvrable, making it an ideal battlefield helicopter and especially suited to the medical evacuation role. These evacuations involve fast, high-paced manoeuvres to quickly extract the casualty from the battlefield, often under enemy fire. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as they bow for you now, please give a big cheer and a wave to the 2013 Chinook Display Team. I would just like to say it's been a pleasure to display for you all here today, and on behalf of the team I hope you enjoy the rest of your day at Cosford, and we hope to perform for you all again at an event in the near future.
Wing over away from the crowd. It almost looks like the aircraft goes all the way upside down. As the aircraft now departs away.
Well, JJ, I think I heard you say just now that one of the crew is Captain Wales. Did you say that?
It is indeed. Captain Wales is with us this afternoon.
Well, maybe we should talk a little more about that when they finish their display.
Indeed. It's a manoeuvre where the pilot is using all of the controls at the same time, flying the aircraft forwards, backwards and sideways whilst moving down the airfield.
And whilst they move down the airfield, you could perhaps look and see whether you can recognise Captain Wales in the back cockpit. He is in the back cockpit, JJ?
He's in the front, sir.
Oh, he's in the front.
He is indeed. If I'm sure he's waving. If the crowd had given him a big wave, I'm sure he will wave back.
He's waggling the gun.
He is indeed. That's Captain Wales is controlling that gun with the use of his head. The aircraft tracks where he's looking. Sight there of the aircraft, low level at its home environment. So as the crew now reposition for their final manoeuvre, the bow, it's an ideal time now to get the cameras ready. And as they pause now for the bow, a massive wave for both of the crew, really show your appreciation for their display today.
And especially because in case there's anybody who hadn't realised who Captain Wales is, it's really Prince Harry. That's what he's generally known as in the army. He is Captain Wales. He must have got his public display authority to fly in this, the PDA, which is the authority for military pilots to fly displays. So he's gone through all the right procedures, and there you have Prince Harry demonstrating in front of you in the amazing Apache helicopter from the Army Air Corps.
The Army recruiting team just next to Hangar 3, and you can be the future Apache pilot. Thank you.
JJ, thank you very much indeed, and of course the Air Force hates you now that you've managed to bring a prince to an Air Force show. It won't do really, but well done the Army Air Corps.
Indeed, thanks very much.
Well, trawl, and I think you will probably see him in the back of the aircraft, somewhere near that ramp at the back. And this rounds off our MERT demonstration. This is another of these aircraft that are capable of carrying and looking after and treating casualties. And there, the aviators are providing smoke for the Vulcan. She doesn't normally have smoke. An indication of how easy to handle the Vulcan is. She can go this slowly to keep position with these two little aircraft. In fact, they're making more noise than she is. That's co-captain is Bill Perrins. Third member of the crew is the Air Electronics Officer Phil Davis. Now they'll do a little teardrop pattern, which is, although rather different ones. Perfect formation there by the two RV-8 guys, Alistair Kay and Andy Hill. Figured out what it is about the Vulcan that affects people so much. She did so until the Navy took over the nuclear deterrent in the mid-60s. When she was a nuclear bomber carrier, and she was doing the quick reaction alert that required, she was... she's very noisy, but she can tiptoe up on you. Jubilee, and by kind permission of Buckingham Palace. This aircraft was made in 1960, so she had her 53rd birthday last Saturday. Maneuverable as a fighter. At the Farnborough Airshow, and I can remember seeing this, one of her test pilots rolled this aeroplane. It didn't go down very well, and he was told not to do it again in public, but it was quite capable of being rolled. And she has a fighter-like control stick. Doesn't have a big yoke like most bombers would have. So she really is a bomber pretending to be a fighter. Now you see that bomb bay opening there, the bomb bay doors open, and that is where she carried those 10 tons, 21,000 pounds. Time when we thought she might not fly beyond the end of this season because she does require major modification next winter. As she comes by this time, you'd see those bomb doors closing. If you look at them with binoculars, you may just be able to see inside. What she really needs is a full commercial sponsor, and everybody's been trying for years to get that. She doesn't have one, but she does get an awful lot of help from the commercial world. Also, people like Eddie Forrester of Aerobatic, very generous. Big support from the Civil Aviation Authority. Somehow you don't expect a big manta ray like that to do those kind of maneuvers. Marshall Aerospace, the engineering authority, lots of other companies give great support. AD Holdings, BAE Systems, Beagle Technology, Cranfield Aerospace, more about that in a moment. EADS, Goodrich, Kearsley Airways, Meggitt, Messier Doughty, Rolls-Royce and Serco. Still costing £2 million a year to run. That's 38,500 every week. Fundraising, 8,000 members and rising, one of the biggest aviation heritage support clubs in the world. She lives at what used to be RAF Finningley, where she used to be stationed at one time. That's now snappily known as the Robin Hood Airport Doncaster Sheffield, or RAHADS for short. She was actually stationed there between 60 and 68, but she lives now in a very sumptuous hangar there, and the Trust runs regular visitor facilities. You can go and see her and look around her. But you have to remember that she's not funded by the government, and she does not belong to the Royal Air Force. And in fact, Just as Kev put the power on there, you heard the beginning of the Vulcan howl, extraordinary noise that is unique to this aircraft. Nobody quite knows why it happens, but it does. It depends on the weather as well. But you can tell your grandchildren you've heard the Vulcan howl. There's one member, or sort of member of the crew that I haven't mentioned, and that's Kevin Stone, Taff Stone. He's the crew chief, the chief engineer, the man who thinks of her as my baby. 558 is my baby. He was 25 years in the Air Force, and he left to work on the Vulcan project. So it's the number 770. Here she is for the last pass with her gear down, and wait for the sound as those Bristol Olympus engines spool up. She goes. Wasn't that absolutely super? So pay the village a visit, or text the money in, or go to vulcantothesky.org. There's also a Vulcan app for your mobile. It'll tell you what she's doing, and you can then keep track of what she's doing. Dakota. And I think you can see the loadmaster standing there, Flight Sergeant Paul Simmons, standing in the doorway. And they are subsequently in resupply, and also casualty evacuation. See, back to the Mertz again, used to evacuate casualties back to England, and missions into and out of forward airfields in the combat area. In fact, the female nurses who escorted the casualties on these flights became known as the Flying Nightingales. By the end of 44, they'd carried more than 1,000. See Paul there, having fun. Distinctive sound of those Pratt & Whitney radials. 14-cylinder radial, 2-row radial, 7 in each row. Sally B, the only Boeing B-17, the flying fortress, still flying in Europe. So there she is, out to our left. Army Air Force in 1939. So all of these aircraft fighting around the same giddy on there, that was what Ted White unveiled to Ellie Sallingbow, and he called this aeroplane Sally B. Sad to say, Ted White died in a significantly less than the size of the Lancaster bomb doors. This aeroplane was a bomb squadron based in East Anglia.